You are now listening to the Build a Brain podcast with Dr. Jeanne Zehr. Join the quest to shape an efficient brain that fires on all cylinders and runs like a fine-tuned machine. You are now in the capable hands of an international presenter and a pathologically optimistic brain builder. Dr. Zehr will give you the right blocks to build that 3 pounds of cerebral muscle for you, your child, or the young adult you teach or mentor. Block by block, thought by thought, now is the time to build a better brain. Let's get started.
Welcome, friends, to episode 27 of Build a Brain podcast. I'm Dr. Jeanne Zehr with my wonderful guru audio engineer named Kibwe Cooper, and he is going to help me pull this one off. We are getting close to the end, friends. It's just hard to believe we have all these episodes. I'm just so excited and very excited about the good comments and feedback I'm getting from around the world. So thank you for sharing this podcast with your friends, because it is for anyone. Of course, it was birthed out of the Feuerstein program, Professor Reuven Feuerstein, and the Feuerstein Institute, that still operates today in Israel. And I work with them closely. I'm in close communication with them almost on a weekly basis. And so they have a wonderful footprint all over the world. I don't know, Kibwe, did I ever tell you Feuerstein is in about 40 countries?
I did not know that.
I know, just this week, let me think if I can name the countries that I've talked to someone by Zoom or in person just in the last 2 or 3 days. British Virgin Islands, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Canada, states in the United States like Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Kentucky, Georgia. And that's just this week that I've had contact with somebody from those states or those countries. So fun to be a part of something that is a global movement. And I'm so glad that you're on this journey with me, that we could share this incredible information. And today's podcast is such an important one. I wish I could get across to our listeners how incredibly important this one is. It looks simple at first, but it is deep and wide. It's called category labels, or forming categories and applying a label. So it goes like this. If I would say these words, Kibwe, you give me one word to sum up all these words, okay? Here's the list. Table, chair, bed, lamp, bookcase, shelf, coffee table. What's one word that would categorize all of those?
Furniture.
You got it. So when you go to a furniture store, you're looking for this big superordinate concept. That's a big Reuven word, furniture. But yet, you're going to find all those things in that store. So we used to go to individual stores. This was before the Walmart phenomenon. We would go to a hardware store to buy hammers and saws and nails and screws and tools. We would go to a grocery store just to buy food. So all of the little objects that go in those stores are the things that go in that category. Well, if you can think at the category level of hardware, furniture, grocery, mall, restaurants, you're thinking up at this big category levels, and you're not getting down in all the little details. You're going to be a more efficient thinker.
You're going to be a more efficient thinker if you don't get down into the little bitty details?
Because I can think big ideas and I don't get lost in the weeds. So I don't have to count to 10 every time I think of 10. I know what 10 means. 10 means all my fingers, or 10 teddy bears, but I don't have to think about I don't have to get my fingers out and count every time. I can think of the big category of 10.
That is really, really very cool.
It
I
is,
always
isn't it?
thought that, I'm a big thinker, but I never
Yes, you
knew
are.
that was
A good
it's just
thing.
yeah. I mean, I knew that, it's great to have good ideas and things, which is
Yeah.
great, but I didn't
Yeah.
realize that being a big thinker made you a more efficient thinker. I always envy people, not envy. I just think it's cool when people have so many details they keep in their head.
Yeah.
But I do notice that a lot of those people who keep so many details really can't think big on a conceptual level.
There you go. You just said it. To think on a conceptual level starts with a 3-year-old where you say red, blue, pink, green, yellow, purple, orange. What's one word for all of those things? And if your 3-year-old can say color, they are now thinking at a conceptual level.
That's so good.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
Yeah. So good. So teach concepts. So the conceptual words, like it's okay if a child can name a hexagon and a triangle and a square and a circle, but do they know that all of those fall under the category of shapes? Yeah. So I can think of shapes and numbers and colors, but I don't have to think of 55 different individual things. I know what goes in each category. And so I've moved up to that conceptual level. Isn't that cool?
That is very, very cool. And it's very affirming, I think. We obsess over details, which I believe details are important. But I also believe that, at least in my case, I think it is so valuable to be able to see things before they occur. Or to be able to see an opportunity out of thin air, even when it comes to like music or art, their ability to hear or see things before they even take physical form, it makes life so much more rich,
Beautiful.
Because,
yes. Keep going.
I went to San Francisco, in December, and I was walking across the bridge, the big Golden State Bridge.
Wow,
with
cool.
with a buddy of mine, huge bridge, and I told him this was just an idea that someone had, and then they talked to some other people, and then they got some people together to make it make sense, put some money behind it, and then they got engineers to figure out, well, if we're going to actually pay for this, then it has to be safe. And then, but all that stuff happened, but it just started with an idea that maybe none of the people involved even had before. And that's why I think, being a conceptual thinker, being a big thinker is so important. But I've never heard anyone say that actually makes you more smart or gives you a different skill set than other people that is hugely significant. I always thought it was the opposite.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. The details, like you just said, are incredibly important. But if there was no big idea of a Golden Gate Bridge, then there would be no need for someone to put all the details in. So first, you can think either way. So that's inductive reasoning versus deductive reasoning. So inductively, you start with little details and figure out, now how can I put them into categories and apply a label? Deductive, you start with a big idea and go, now what other details can fit in to the big idea? And both directions are great ways to use logic. You can go either direction, but there's no need for details without the big idea to begin with. So I kind of like the big picture. And think about, because you're a musician as well, so think about genres of music. Think how efficient it is that you could probably, so rattle off some genres of music that you've been involved in.
Blues, R&B, hip hop, Pop, choral music, classical music,
Broadway?
musical theater,
The-
um,
I'm up to
let's see,
7.
gospel. Yeah.
8. Okay, there's 8 genres of music. Did you have to name 250 songs?
No.
You named genres. And see how efficient that was?
Yeah.
I now know that you could sing or work in 8 different, probably with hundreds, thousands of songs, but we didn't have to name all those songs.
Right.
We named 8 genres.
Wow.
Woohoo!
So how do we get kids to think, or kids or mediators, to facilitate thinking that way?
So glad you asked. Let me pull out my questions. So you could ask a question like, what is one thing all of these things have in common? So could you imagine singing one line of 5 different songs and asking what's in common there? And could the music student you're teaching go, well, they have the same kind of flow or the same kind of rhythm or the same kind of, I don't know enough music terms, but you would. But if the kid could name it, they would be moving up to being able to now apply a label. So first you have to see how things have something in common. So remember I asked that question back when we were, let's see, what cognitive function were we on when I was talking about similarities and differences? Mm-hmm. Remember that one? I think it was on using 2 or more sources.
Yeah.
That was episode 23.
Using 2 or more sources.
Mm-hmm. Also related to episode number 7, which was comparing, is when I can seek out similarities and differences. For the similarities is how we make a category. So if I've got 10 things and 6 of them have a lot that's similar and 4 of them are very different, I can now make 2 categories. So maybe one category is rhythm and blues and the other one is musical theater, if we're talking things that songs, or music has in common. You could also ask a child, do they have a category label for all these things? So that's inductive reasoning. You could line up pictures of a hexagon, an oval, a square, a triangle, and ask the child, do you have a name for what we call all of these? And if they have the word shape, they can think at the category level. What category do these things belong to would be another example. And then another one that I like is, why should we care how we organize things? Why should we care that we organize things and put them in categories? I like to give the example of when you're in the grocery store and you got your 6 and 7-year-old going nuts, going, Mom, can I have this? Can I have that? Are we done yet? I want to go home. Okay, so give them something to think about. So you're in the canned goods aisle, okay? And you ask your child, hey, remember we said we were going to pick up a cantaloupe. Could we get the cantaloupe in this aisle? You should have a kid looking around going, well, no, Mom, there's not going to be cantaloupe here. And if they can recognize this is not the right aisle for cantaloupe, then they're getting an idea of how a grocery store is organized. So have you ever been to your favorite grocery store, Kibwe, and they moved some of the aisles around? Has that happened to you?
Yes.
And how'd you feel about that?
Disoriented. Because when you go to your grocery store frequently, your footpath is already mapped out and you don't even think about it. Your feet just take you right to the area, and then all of a sudden you feel lost because you're like, oh wait, where
they
did it all
move
go?
stuff.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, I know. They did some big changes a couple years ago in Myers. I heard about it from my husband for weeks. He was so upset that they moved this one section of the grocery store. So you said disorienting. Usually I have people say it makes them mad. For the same reason is you're not as efficient in your shopping because your roadmap has been now disoriented and changed, and you're struggling with finding things. Or if you're out of town, what you'll see when you move out to Colorado and you've got to find a new grocery store, and it's one you've never been in, and you got to learn, okay, where do they put things? And don't you love it when there's something unusual that you have no idea where and they put it in some strange place that you weren't expecting it. So yeah, learning where things are at is why we should care about category labels. So think about how the big box stores decide where to put things, and have those conversations with yourself or with people that you're mentoring or children that you're raising or mentoring, is have those conversations. Why do we organize things in the way that we do?
Why do we organize things in the way that we do? That's a really great question. Wow. This is awesome.
Yeah. So does this make sense why I think this is such a fabulous building block for our brain?
Absolutely. Yeah. Someone said once that our brain wants to categorize everything. And that's why we get confused about people, about lifestyles, about belief systems, about stereotypes, because we want to put people in categories. And so you're teaching us an easy way to understand and accept different types of things, people, concepts, and put them in categories, so your brain is less frightened by them or upset about them.
And what you just brought up is a beautiful example of using our prefrontal cortex to question, why did I put that person in this category? Was that the right, did I really put them in the right category? And is there a category I should even be putting this person in?
Right.
So the frontal cortex is very involved with all of the skills. For example, this one, forming categories, is the last one that Reuven put in elaboration. Now, they're not ranked in any particular order. They're all equally important, but this is one I think is fabulously important, and it is frontal lobe work, being able to see the relationships between things so that I can put them in the right category, and asking good questions. Have I stereotyped? Have I put someone in a category that, now wait a minute, why did I just do that? Because I've caught myself when I've done that at times. So I went, wait a minute, Jeannie. And Feuerstein does help you think critically, so you catch yourself when you are doing that. So works both ways.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, thank you, my friend, for episode number 27. And thank you all of our friends around the world that are listening to the Build a Brain podcast. We will see you on the next one, number 28. It'll be the last one for the cognitive functions.
Thanks for listening to the Build a Brain podcast. If you're wanting to know more information on how to build a brain, please visit the website for the MindCAP Center in Fort Wayne, Indiana at www.mind-cap.org. That's www.mind-cap.org. Children and adults from across the United States and Canada have found the cognitive help they needed at the MindCAP Center. The specialized team is trained in all levels of the Feuerstein program and can literally help you or your child build a better brain. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time.